The council chamber was the largest room Taeyang had ever seen. It stretched upward for hundreds of meters, with seats carved into the walls in a massive spiral. Each seat held a different species from across the galaxy. Some were tall and covered in fur. Others were small and floated in bubbles of strange gas. A few looked almost human, but their eyes were too large or their skin was the wrong color. Taeyang sat in the human section with Colonel Yuna beside him. Their seats were at the very bottom of the chamber, the newest addition to the council. Humanity had only joined 3 years ago, after finally discovering how to travel faster than light. Before that, humans were alone on Earth, thinking they were the only intelligent life in the universe. How wrong they had been. The speaker of the council was a being named Vexithar. He was made of crystal that caught the light and threw rainbows across the chamber. When he spoke, his voice echoed like wind chimes. He stood at the center of the room on a floating platform. "The council has reached a decision regarding the human question," Vexithar announced. His crystal body pulsed with light. "After careful consideration and debate among all member species, we have determined that Earth's military expansion poses a risk to galactic stability." Taeyang felt his stomach tighten. He had expected something like this, but hearing it spoken aloud made it real. Beside him, Yuna sat perfectly still, her face showing nothing. "Therefore," Vexithar continued, "the Council requires Earth to surrender 40% of its military fleet. Furthermore, Earth will accept a peacekeeping force on its homeworld and major colonies. This is for your own protection, so that you do not make enemies before you understand the dangers of the galaxy." The chamber filled with clicking, humming, and other sounds that Taeyang had learned were alien versions of agreement. Only a few species remained silent. Most seemed pleased with this decision. Taeyang stood slowly. The movement caused some of the aliens to turn their attention to him. He could feel hundreds of eyes, and other sensing organs, focused on him. "Speaker Vexithar, may I address the council?" Taeyang kept his voice calm and respectful. "You may speak, human," the crystal being replied. "Can you provide evidence of human aggression?" "In the 3 years since we joined the council, Earth has not threatened any species. We have not claimed any territory beyond our own solar system. We have followed every council law and regulation." Taeyang looked around the chamber. "So, I ask, what have we done to deserve this action?" A low rumbling sound came from the upper levels. Taeyang recognized it as laughter from the Kroth, a species of large reptilian beings who controlled a significant portion of the galaxy. Their ambassador was a creature named Sithrak, whose scales were deep purple and whose teeth were always visible. "The human speaks of what they have done," Sithrak called out, his voice like grinding stones. "But we act on what you might do. Your species builds weapons at an alarming rate. You have constructed more warships in 3 years than most species build in 30. This is suspicious behavior. We build ships to defend ourselves." Yuna spoke up, breaking protocol. "We are new to the galaxy. We do not know who might threaten us, so we prepare." "That is precisely the problem," Vexithar said. His crystal body seemed to glow brighter. "You prepare for war before understanding that the Council keeps the peace. Your actions suggest you do not trust the Council's protection. This cannot be allowed." Taeyang wanted to laugh at the absurdity. Of course, humans did not trust the Council completely. Every species in this chamber had thousands of years of spaceflight experience. They had formed alliances, fought wars, and established their territories long before humanity took its first steps off Earth. Humans were the newcomers, the outsiders, and history had taught Earth one clear lesson. The weak became prey. "Speaker, I request time to consult with my government," Taeyang said. "This is a significant demand that requires careful consideration." Vexithar's crystal form shifted, the light patterns changing. "The Council grants you 72 hours to respond." 48 hours, a voice called out. It was Sithrak again. The human threat grows with each passing day. We should not delay. Nuff. Several other species voiced their agreement. The sounds mixed together in a cacophony that made Taeyong's head hurt. Very well. Vexthar decided. 48 hours. The Council will reconvene at that time to receive Earth's formal response. If Earth refuses, the Council will be forced to take more direct action. The meaning was clear. Accept the terms, or face war with the entire Galactic Council. It was no choice at all, or so they thought. As the session ended and aliens began filing out of the chamber, Taeyong and Yuna remained seated for a moment. A young diplomat named Hyun approached them, his face pale. Ambassador. Colonel. I found something, Hyun whispered. He glanced around to make sure no one was listening. I've been tracking council communications like you asked. The Krath Empire has been pushing for this action for months. They've been meeting with other species, offering trade deals and political favors in exchange for votes against Earth. Why? Taeyong asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. Our solar system, Yuna said quietly. Earth, Mars, the asteroid belt, Jupiter's moons. We have more usable resources in one star system than most species have in 5. They want us weak so they can take it. Hyun nodded. There are messages suggesting exactly that. Once Earth accepts the Council's terms and our fleet is reduced, the Krath plan to claim they are protecting us. They'll move their forces into our space permanently. Taeyong stood and straightened his uniform. Around them, the massive chamber was emptying. Soon, they would be alone, with only the echoes. Contact Earth immediately, he told Hyun. Use the secure channel. Tell them exactly what's happening here, and what we've discovered about the Krath. What do you think Earth will do? Hyun asked. Taeyong looked up at the empty seats that circled above them. So many species, so much power, all united against humanity. They thought humans were weak because they were new. They thought Earth would have no choice but to submit. I think, Taeyong said slowly, the Council is about to learn something important about humans. We don't surrender. Not ever. Yuna smiled, and there was something cold in that smile. They wanted to see what humanity is capable of. They're going to get their wish. The 3 humans left the chamber together, walking through corridors filled with aliens who paid them little attention. Just another minor species being put in its place. Nothing unusual in the long history of the Galactic Council. None of them suspected that in 48 hours, the entire galaxy would change forever. The emergency meeting room was deep underground, beneath layers of rock and metal that protected it from any scanning technology. Prime Minister Minji sat at the head of a long table surrounded by Earth's most important leaders. Military officers, intelligence chiefs, and scientific advisors filled every seat. On the main screen, Ambassador Taeyong's face looked tired but determined. The transmission from the council station took several seconds to arrive, even at faster than light speeds. They've given us 48 hours to surrender nearly half our fleet and accept occupation forces, Taeyong was saying. The Krath are behind it. They want our solar system's resources, and they're using the council to weaken us first. General Jin Woo, commander of Earth's military forces, leaned back in his chair. He was an older man, with gray hair and sharp eyes. How many council species voted for this action? All of them, Taeyong replied. Even the ones we thought were friendly. They're either afraid of going against the majority, or they genuinely believe we're a threat. We are a threat, Admiral Salmon said from her seat near the end of the table. She was younger than most of the officers present. But she commanded Earth's most powerful ship. We just haven't shown them how much of one yet. She was younger than Earth's person. She was younger than most of the Earth's most powerful ship. Minji raised her hand for silence. The room immediately quieted. She had been Prime Minister for only 2 years, but she had earned the respect of everyone present. Let's review what the Council knows about our military, she said. Captain Hyun Woo, please Please present the official numbers. A young intelligence officer stood and activated a holographic display. Small blue ships appeared floating above the table. According to all public records and the information we've shared with the Council, Earth has a total of 212 military vessels. This includes frigates, destroyers, and cruisers. We have no dreadnoughts or carriers. Several people around the table smiled at that statement. Now show them the real numbers, Minji ordered. The holographic display exploded with light. Thousands of red ships appeared, filling the air above the table. They were organized in fleets, battle groups, and defensive formations. The sheer number of them made the room seem smaller. Earth's actual military strength stands at 2,847 warships, Hyunwoo said. This includes 12 Planet Killer-class dreadnoughts, 37 heavy carriers, and hundreds of support vessels. We also have 863 automated defense platforms scattered throughout our territory. How did we hide this from the Council? Taeyong asked over the transmission. They have sensors everywhere. We didn't hide them. Admiral Salmon explained. We disguised them. Every ship the Council has ever scanned was civilian grade on the outside. The real warships have been operating in dark zones, areas of space the Council doesn't patrol. We've also used stealth technology that we developed ourselves, technology the Council doesn't know exists. General Jinwoo added. When we first joined the Council and saw how they operated, we realized something important. They're comfortable. Most Council species haven't fought a real war in hundreds of years. They rely on reputation and treaties to keep the peace. Their actual military forces are outdated. So we could fight them, Taeyang said. It wasn't a question. We could destroy them, Salmon replied bluntly. The Council's combined fleet is impressive in size, but their tactics are ancient. They fight like they're still using projectile weapons. They don't understand nuclear warfare, kinetic bombardment, or viral weapons. But we never banned them, Minji said quietly. Because we remember our own history. Earth's 20th and 21st centuries taught us that the most terrible weapons can also be the only thing preventing their use. Mutually assured destruction kept our nations from destroying each other. Quote, the room fell silent for a moment. Everyone present knew Earth's bloody past. The wars, the genocides, the near-extinction events that humans had somehow survived. Other species had evolved past such violence millennia ago. Humans had lived through it, just generations back. The Council thinks we're primitive, General Jinwoo said. They see us building weapons and think we're warlike children who need to be controlled. They don't understand that we build weapons specifically because we know what happens to the unarmed. What do you recommend? Minji asked her military commanders. Admiral Salmon stood and walked to the holographic display. She manipulated the controls, and the red ships began moving. They took up positions around Earth, around the moon, and throughout the solar system. We show them what they're actually dealing with, she said. For 3 years, we've been playing the role of weak newcomers. We've nodded and smiled while they patronized us. We've accepted their rules and restrictions, all while preparing for this exact moment. She changed the display again. Now it showed the Council's military forces positioned near Earth. 312 ships in total, waiting in stealth just outside Earth's sensor range. Except humans had sensors the Council didn't know about. They think they have us surrounded. Salmon continued. They think if we refuse their terms, they can blockade Earth and force us to surrender. But look at this. The display zoomed out. More red ships appeared. These ones positioned around the Council fleet. Hundreds of human vessels that had been hiding in stealth, waiting. We've had them surrounded for 6 days, Salmon said with satisfaction. Every time they moved into position, we moved more ships into place around them. If shooting starts, their fleet won't last an hour. But that's just here at Earth, Taeyang pointed out. What about their homeworlds? If we fight, they'll unite against us. Salmon's smile grew wider. She changed the display one more time. The hologram now showed dozens of different star systems, each marked with the symbol of a council species. And in each system, small red dots appeared near the planets. We have 47 dreadnoughts positioned in strike range of every major council world, she said. They've been there for 13 months. The council's sensors never detected them. Each one carries enough kinetic missiles to crack a planet's crust. We can hit every major species simultaneously, if we need to. The room erupted in surprised murmurs. Even some of the military officers hadn't known about this deployment. Only the highest levels of command had been informed. You've positioned weapons of mass destruction near civilian populations, Taeyang said. And his voice carried both horror and admiration. If the council finds out, we have no influence, so they won't find out unless we tell them, General Jinwoo interrupted. And we will tell them. That's the point of this strategy. The council wants to bully us because they think we're weak. We're going to show them exactly how strong we are, and exactly how much mercy we've been showing by not using that strength. 1. Minji had been quiet through all of this, listening to her advisors present their plans. Now she spoke, and everyone turned to listen. Humanity tried peace, she said. We came to the galaxy hoping to find friends, to trade, to learn. We've followed every rule they set for us, and now they want to take our freedom because we had the audacity to protect ourselves. She stood and looked around the table at each person present. The council will learn what every bully throughout human history has learned. Push us far enough, and we don't surrender. We push back. She turned to the screen showing Taeyang. Ambassador, return to the council. Tell them we have our answer. Earth will deliver its response in person when the deadline arrives. What should I tell our people here? Taeyang asked. The civilians on the station? Start evacuating them quietly, General Jinwoo said. We don't want to tip our hand too early. And what about our response? What exactly will we tell the council? Minji's expression hardened. We're going to teach them a lesson about threatening humanity. Admiral Salmon, prepare your fleet. In 48 hours, the galaxy changes. We can see in stages. The council chamber was even more crowded than before. Word had spread across the galaxy that the humans would give their answer today. Species from distant sectors had sent representatives just to witness the moment. Everyone wanted to see the newest members of the council learn their place. Taeyang walked into the chamber with Yuna and Hyun following close behind. The conversation stopped as they entered. Thousands of eyes watched them cross the floor to their seats at the bottom of the great spiral. Taeyang could feel the weight of their stares. Most were curious. Some seemed sympathetic. A few looked hungry, like predators watching wounded prey. Speaker Vexisthar's crystal body glowed brightly as he called the session to order. The 48 hours have passed. We will now hear Earth's response to the Council's requirements. Ambassador Taeyang, please address the Council. Taeyang stood slowly. He had rehearsed this moment 100 times during the journey back to the station. He knew exactly what he needed to say and when he needed to say it. Timing would be everything. Honorable Speaker, esteemed members of the Galactic Council, he began, his voice carrying clearly through the massive chamber. Earth has carefully considered your demands. We have consulted with our government, our military leaders, and our people. After much discussion, we have reached our decision. He paused, letting the tension build. Around him, aliens leaned forward in their seats. We decline. The chamber exploded with sound. Clicks, roars, whistles, and dozens of other noises Taeyang couldn't identify filled the air. Vexthar's crystal body pulsed rapidly. A sign of agitation. You decline? The speaker asked, his wind chime voice sharp. Do you understand what this means? The Council's word is law. Refusal means you place yourselves outside galactic civilization. We understand perfectly, Taeyang replied calmly. We also offer the Council an alternative. Withdraw your ultimatum, and Earth will continue, as a member, in good standing. Maintain your demands, and Earth will withdraw from the Council entirely. We will return to our solar system and have no further contact with any of you. This caused even more commotion. The idea of a species voluntarily isolating itself was almost unheard of. The galaxy was built on trade and cooperation. Being outside the Council meant being outside the protection it offered. Sithrak the Krath stood from his seat high in the chamber. His purple scales caught the light as he moved. The humans truly are as foolish as they appear. You would condemn your species to isolation rather than accept our guidance? Your guidance? Yuna spoke up, standing beside Taeyang. Is that what you call attempting to steal our territory? We know about your plans, Sithrak. We know you've been lobbying for this action for months. We know you intend to occupy Earth once we're weakened. The Krath ambassador's eyes narrowed. Lies and accusations. The Krath Empire serves the Council faithfully. Perhaps we should demonstrate how seriously we take your threats, Vexthar said, his voice cold. Council security. Activate defensive positions. On the chamber's main view screen, space appeared. It showed the area around Earth. Currently 3 days away at normal speeds, hundreds of Council ships dropped their stealth fields simultaneously, appearing like stars blinking into existence. The Council's peacekeeping fleet, positioned to blockade humanity's homeworld. As you can see, Vexthar continued, we anticipated your refusal. Your world is surrounded. We can prevent any ship from entering or leaving your system. Your colonies will be cut off. Your trade will stop. In time, you will have no choice but to accept our terms. Taeyang looked at the screen, then back at Vexthar. He smiled, and it was not a friendly expression. Colonel, he said to Yuna. Yuna raised her communicator to her lips. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the view screen changed. The image flickered and suddenly showed a different view of the same space. And everything was different. Around the Council's fleet, ships appeared, hundreds of them, materializing from seemingly nowhere. They formed a perfect sphere around the Council vessels, weapons already aimed and ready. The Council fleet wasn't surrounding Earth. They were surrounded. The chamber fell silent. Every species was staring at the screen, in disbelief. That's impossible, someone whispered. Our sensors would have detected them, but the image changed again, showing different locations. Earth's moon, where massive weapons platforms were now visible, their targeting systems online. Mars, surrounded by a ring of defense stations. The asteroid belt, filled with automated missile launchers. Every major location in Earth's solar system was armed to a degree that shocked the watching aliens. We have cloaking technology you don't know about, Yuna said into the silence. We've had it for 2 years. Every ship, every platform, every defense system you're seeing was hidden in plain sight while your ships scanned our space. The view screen changed once more, and this time gasps echoed through the chamber. It showed different star systems now, dozens of them, Council homeworlds, and near each one, close enough to threaten but far enough to avoid immediate detection, were massive human ships, dreadnoughts, each one large enough to appear clearly, even at the scale of the display. Those are our planet killer class vessels, Taeyang said quietly. We have 47 of them, and each one has been positioned within strike range of a major Council world. They've been there for over a year. Your sensors never found them. The chamber was absolutely silent now. Even the background hum of life support systems seemed loud in comparison. Aliens stared at the screen, at the undeniable proof that humanity had infiltrated their space, had positioned weapons near their homes, and had done it all without being detected. This is an act of war, Vexthar said, but his voice shook. The crystal structure of his body flickered uncertainly. No, Taeyang corrected. This is a demonstration of capability. If we wanted war, you would already be under attack. Those ships have been in position for months. We could have struck at any time. We chose not to, because Earth doesn't want war. We want peace. But we will have peace on our terms, not yours. Sithrak stood again, his massive form trembling with rage. You dare threaten the Council? You dare position weapons near our homeworlds? We should destroy Earth for this insult. You can try, Yuna said coldly. Your fleet near Earth is surrounded and outgunned 5-1. If you give the order to attack, they won't survive. And the moment any Council ship fires on a human vessel, every one of our dreadnoughts will launch. Do you understand what that means? In less than an hour, every major Council species will lose significant military infrastructure. Some of you might lose your homeworlds entirely. You're bluffing. Another species called out. No one would actually use such weapons. You're judging us by your own standards, Taeyang replied. You've had peace for so long that you've forgotten what war truly means. Humanity hasn't forgotten. We've fought wars that killed millions. We've built weapons that could destroy our own world. We've stood on the edge of extinction and pulled ourselves back. Do not assume we will hesitate to use force to protect ourselves. He let that sink in for a moment, watching the fear spread through the chamber like a wave. But we are not monsters, he continued, his voice softer now. We don't want to hurt anyone. We simply want to be left alone, to grow and develop at our own pace. So here are Earth's terms. The Council fleet will withdraw from our space immediately. The Krath Empire will publicly apologize for their attempted manipulation of Council politics, and the Council will formally recognize Earth's right to maintain whatever military force we deem necessary for our security. And if we refuse? Vexthar asked. Taeyang's expression hardened. Then you'll discover that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our weapons. It's our will to survive. We will do whatever is necessary to protect our species. And given that we have first strike capability against your homeworlds, I would suggest you think very carefully about your next move. Imar 4C. The silence in the chamber was absolute. Thousands of species, billions of beings represented in this room, all held in check by the actions of a species that had only known about aliens for 3 years. You have 1 hour to decide, Taeyang said. Withdraw your fleet and accept our terms, or see what humanity is truly capable of when we stop being polite. He sat down, and the chamber remained frozen in shocked silence. The Council chamber had never been so divided. For 30 minutes, species argued with each other in a chaos of sound and movement. Some called for immediate withdrawal, saying humanity had proven they were too dangerous to fight. Others demanded action, insisting that backing down would make the Council look weak. Sithrak the Krath was the loudest voice calling for war. He moved through the upper levels of the chamber, speaking with other warlike species, building a coalition. His purple scales seemed darker now, flushed with anger and wounded pride. They are bluffing, he insisted to anyone who would listen. Humans are merchants and explorers. They have no stomach for real war. They threaten us because they know we could crush them if we chose. This is fear talking, not strength. More species began to listen to him. The idea spread that humanity was only posturing, that their threats were empty. After all, what kind of species would actually destroy homeworlds? It was unthinkable to most Council members. War had become so ritualized, so controlled, that the idea of total war seemed like ancient history. Speaker Vexithar called for order, but the chaos continued. He finally sent out a pulse of light from his crystal body, bright enough to hurt eyes and optical sensors. The chamber quieted. We must vote, Vexthar announced. All those in favor of withdrawing our forces and accepting Earth's terms? About a third of the species indicated their agreement. It was not enough. All those in favor of maintaining our position? More than half the species supported this option. They believed Sithrak. They believed humanity would back down rather than face the might of the entire Galactic Council. Vexthar's crystal form seemed to dim slightly. Then it is decided. Earth will stand down, or be branded enemies of galactic civilization. Taeyang stood slowly. Yuna and Hyun stood with him. The three humans looked small and alone at the bottom of the vast chamber. "You're certain of this decision?" Taeyang asked. His voice was calm, but Yuna noticed his hands were clenched tightly at his sides. "We are certain," Vexthar replied. "The Council does not bow to threats. You will surrender your fleet and accept our terms, or you will face the consequences." "Very well," Taeyang said softly. He looked at Yuna and nodded once. Yuna raised her communicator. Her voice was steady as she spoke. "Admiral Salmon, authorization code Sierra Victor 7-7. Protocol Reaper is active. Far away, on Earth." Prime Minister Minji received the transmission. She had been waiting for it, though she had hoped it wouldn't come. Around her, the Crisis Council was silent. Everyone knew what had to happen next. "Admiral Jinwoo," Minji said quietly, "you may proceed. In orbit around Earth, aboard the dreadnought Indomitable." Captain Salmon received her orders. She had known this moment might come since she took command of the ship. She had run simulations 1,000 times, but simulations didn't carry the weight of what she was about to do. "Target confirmed?" she asked her weapons officer. "Confirmed, Captain." Krath Military Station Delta 9. No civilian populations within the blast radius. Charged and ready to fire. Salmon took a deep breath. Fire. The Indomitable's main kinetic weapon released its payload. A solid metal slug, accelerated to 75% of light speed, launched into space. It would take 40 seconds to reach its target. In the council chamber, the view screen activated again. It showed the Krath Military Station, a massive structure that housed 4,000 Krath military personnel and served as a major supply depot for their fleet. "What is this?" Sithrak demanded. "What are you showing us?" "You wanted to see if we were bluffing," Taeyang said. "We're showing you we weren't." The metal slug hit the station at precisely 40 seconds. At that speed, even a small object carried unimaginable kinetic energy. The station didn't explode. It simply stopped existing. One moment it was there, a structure that had stood for 200 years. The next moment, there was only expanding gas and debris. 4,000 Krath died instantly. They never even knew they were under attack. The council chamber erupted in screams and shouts. Aliens fled their seats, others demanded explanations, and some simply stared at the screen in horror. The age of polite, controlled warfare had just ended in a single second. "You monsters!" Sithrak roared. "You killed thousands." "That was mercy," Yuna said, her voice cutting through the chaos. "That was a military target, a legitimate objective in any war. We gave you warning. We demonstrated our capability. You chose not to believe us." The view screen split into multiple images. Each one showed a different location in council space. And in each location, something was happening. An empty moon near a major world suddenly vaporized as a human ship fired a demonstration shot. A derelict space station that had been abandoned for years exploded as a human missile struck it. A dreadnought appeared directly above a military academy, visible to everyone on the ground below, before jumping away to another location. "This is the 60-second war," Taeyang said, and his voice echoed in the stunned silence. "In 1 minute, we have demonstrated what we could do to you. We struck one military target. We destroyed several objects of no strategic value just to show our range and accuracy. We appeared above your schools and academies to prove we could strike anywhere we choose." He gestured to the screens. "That was mercy. We could have hit civilian centers. We could have destroyed homeworlds. We chose not to because Earth doesn't want to be conquerors or mass murderers. But make no mistake, we have the capability and we have the will to use it if necessary." "You're insane," someone called out. You've started a war you cannot win. 2. We've already won, Yuna corrected. Every major council species now knows that humanity has weapons positioned near their homeworlds. You can't remove them without us detecting your approach. You can't defend against them because our kinetic weapons move too fast for your point defense systems. And you can't threaten us because we've proven we're willing to strike first. Taeyang stepped forward, and despite being at the bottom of the chamber, despite being physically smaller than most species present, his presence commanded attention. Here are Earth's revised terms, he said. The Council fleet withdraws from our space within the hour. The Krath Empire surrenders 40% of their fleet to a neutral third party as compensation for their attempted conquest of Earth. A formal apology is issued to humanity by the Council. And finally, Earth is granted a seat on the High Council with full voting rights. Never, Sithrak screamed. The Krath will never surrender. We will fight. Then your homeworld will be the next target. Taeyang said, coldly. We have 3 dreadnoughts in position around your planet right now. If you refuse these terms, we will demonstrate what happens to those who threaten Earth. Your entire government, your military command, everything that makes the Krath Empire function, will cease to exist in minutes. You're bluffing now, Sithrak said, but his voice shook. You wouldn't destroy an entire world. Try us, Yuna said simply. You have 10 minutes to decide. After that, we start targeting military infrastructure across Council space. Every shipyard, every military base, every weapons platform. We will systematically dismantle your ability to wage war until you agree to our terms. Vex Thar's crystal body was flickering rapidly now, a sign of extreme distress. No, Taeyang corrected. You forced yourselves into this corner when you demanded we surrender. Earth tried peace. We tried cooperation. We followed your rules and respected your customs, and you responded by trying to take our freedom. This is what happens when you push humanity too far. The minutes ticked by in agonizing silence. Species whispered to each other, calculating odds, weighing options. The Krath delegation was in frantic communication with their homeworld. At 9 minutes and 47 seconds, Sithrak stood. His massive form seemed somehow smaller now, deflated by defeat. The Krath Empire agrees to the terms, he said, each word seemingly pulled from him by force. Vex Thar looked around the chamber. No other species spoke up to continue the fight. Then, the Council agrees. We will withdraw our fleet. The terms will be met. Taeyang nodded once. A wise decision. Colonel, transmit the stand-down order. Transmitted, Yuna confirmed. All human forces are returning to defensive positions. The threat level is lowered to yellow. As the implications sank in, the chamber began to empty. Species fled, eager to contact their homeworlds and confirm they were still safe. Others remained, staring at the humans with new understanding and fear. Earth had demonstrated something the galaxy hadn't seen in thousands of years. They had shown that humanity, when pushed, would push back with overwhelming force. The age of assuming humans would follow the old rules was over. A new age had begun. 3 weeks had passed since what the galaxy now called the 60-second war. The name had spread across thousands of worlds. Spoken in hundreds of languages, in 60 seconds, humanity had changed the political structure of the entire Galactic Council. Taeyang sat in a different chair now, not at the bottom of the council chamber, but elevated to one of the High Council seats. Earth had been granted the position as part of the agreement, and no species had dared to object. The view from up here was different. He could see the entire chamber, could watch as other species looked up at him with expressions ranging from respect to fear. Today was supposed to be a normal session. Trade agreements, territorial disputes, the usual business of governing a galaxy. But Taeyang could feel the tension in the air. Things were not normal, and perhaps they never would be again. On Earth, Prime Minister Minji was giving a speech to the United Earth Assembly. The transmission was being broadcast across human space, and Taeyang knew that many alien species were listening too. trying to understand what humanity would do with its newfound power. "We never wanted to be conquerors," Minji said, her voice firm and clear. "When we discovered we weren't alone in the universe, we hoped to find friends. We hoped to learn and grow among the other species of the galaxy. And for 3 years, we tried to be the peaceful newcomers they expected us to be." She paused, and the assembly hall was silent. "But we learned something important. In this galaxy, as on Earth throughout our history, the weak become prey. The Council saw our attempts at peace as weakness. They saw our respect for their rules as submission. And when they thought they could take our freedom without consequences, they tried. They learned differently," she continued. "They learned that humanity remembers its history. We remember the cost of being unprepared. We remember what happens to those who trust in the goodness of others while neglecting their own defense. So, we prepared. We built in secret. We positioned our forces, and when they threatened us, we showed them exactly what they were dealing with." The assembly erupted in applause. Minji waited for it to quiet before speaking again. "But let me be clear about Earth's position going forward. We are not seeking to dominate the Council. We are not interested in conquest or empire. We simply want to be left alone to develop at our own pace, in our own way. Any species that respects that will find us to be good neighbors and fair trading partners. Any species that tries to threaten us will learn the same lesson the Council learned." In the Council chamber, Taeyang noticed several species shifting uncomfortably at those words. The message was clear. Humanity's mercy during the crisis had been a choice, not a necessity. Admiral Jinwoo was in a secure briefing room on Earth, updating the military command on the situation. 3 species are forming what they're calling a defensive alliance, he told the gathered officers. The Vren Collective, the Hask Federation, and the Taurian Empire. They claim it's for mutual protection, but our intelligence suggests they're specifically concerned about human expansion. Should we be worried? One of the officers asked. Not immediately, Jinwoo replied. They're still 3 decades away from having the military capacity to challenge us directly. But we should monitor the situation closely. History shows that today's defensive alliance can become tomorrow's invasion force. What about the Krath? Another officer asked. Have they complied with the terms? They have, Jinwoo confirmed. They've surrendered 40% of their fleet to neutral parties. Their military capability has been significantly reduced, but don't mistake compliance for acceptance. The Krath have long memories. They'll be planning their revenge, even if it takes them centuries. Captain Salmon was being interviewed by a journalist from an alien news service. The interview was being broadcast across multiple systems, and she chose her words carefully. Do you regret firing the shot that destroyed the Krath station? The journalist asked. The translator rendered their question in clear human speech. Salmon was silent for a moment, considering. I regret that it was necessary, she finally said. 4,000 beings died because their leaders made poor decisions. That's a tragedy. But I don't regret following orders that protected billions of humans from subjugation. Sometimes, the only way to prevent a larger war is to demonstrate that you're willing to fight. Some species call humanity monsters for what you did, the journalist pressed. Some species tried to take our freedom, Salmon countered. They positioned a fleet around our homeworld. They demanded we surrender our ability to defend ourselves. And when we refused, they threatened us with force. What we did was respond to an act of aggression. If that makes us monsters, then so be it. But I prefer to think it makes us survivors. The interview spread across the galaxy, shared and discussed on millions of platforms. Opinion was divided. Some species saw humanity as dangerous warmongers who needed to be contained. Others saw them as a necessary counterbalance to the Council's complacency. A few saw them as potential allies who had proven they kept their promises. Back in the Council chamber, a trade dispute between 2 minor species was being resolved. It was boring, routine work. But Taeyang paid attention. This was what the council should be about, he thought, helping species work together, preventing conflicts before they started, not trying to bully newcomers into submission. When the session ended, Vexthar approached Taeyang. The crystal being's body still flickered with uncertainty when he was near humans. Ambassador Taeyang, may I speak with you privately? The speaker asked. They moved to a small conference room off the main chamber. Vexthar's light patterns shifted constantly as he organized his thoughts. I wanted to apologize, he finally said. The council acted poorly. We should have welcomed humanity as equals, rather than trying to control you. I should have resisted the pressure from species like the Krath. Taeyang studied the alien for a moment. You're apologizing because you're afraid of what we might do, or because you genuinely regret what happened. Both, Vexthar admitted. I won't lie to you. Your species terrifies most of the council. You hide weapons near our worlds. You have technology we can't detect. You're willing to use force in ways we haven't seen in millennia. But I also genuinely regret forcing this confrontation. We could have been allies. Quote, we still can be, Taeyang said. That's what Earth wants. We don't want to be feared. We'd prefer to be respected as partners. But if fear is what it takes to maintain our independence, we'll accept that. Junior diplomat Hyun was in Earth's intelligence center, reviewing reports from across the galaxy. The amount of information flowing in was overwhelming. Every species was reassessing their relationship with humanity. Trade proposals, military intelligence, political analysis, all of it flooding in. Look at this, he said to his supervisor, highlighting a particular report. The Fenris Republic wants to establish a formal alliance with Earth. They're a minor species on the edge of council space. They've been bullied by larger neighbors for decades. What are they offering? The supervisor asked. Access to their territory for human ships. Intelligence sharing. Support in council votes. They're hoping that an alliance with us will protect them from future threats. They want to hide behind our reputation, the supervisor said. We're becoming the galaxy's big stick. Is that necessarily bad? Hyun asked. If smaller species feel safer because of our presence, if aggressive species think twice before starting conflicts, aren't we making the galaxy more stable? The supervisor considered this. Maybe. Or maybe we're just becoming what we fought against. The council tried to use force to control us. Now we're using the threat of force to shape galactic politics. Where does it end? On a news broadcast being shown across human space and beyond, a panel of experts was discussing the implications of recent events. A human political analyst was speaking. What we're seeing is a fundamental shift in how galactic politics works, she explained. For thousands of years, the council operated on the assumption that all species would follow certain unwritten rules. Don't develop weapons of mass destruction. Don't position forces near homeworlds. Don't strike first. Humanity broke all those rules. Not because we're evil, but because those rules didn't serve our survival. An alien correspondent responded, but doesn't that make you dangerous? If every species decided to follow humanity's example, the galaxy would descend into chaos. Perhaps, the human analyst agreed, or perhaps the old system only worked because it favored those already in power. The council kept the peace by making sure no newcomers could challenge them. They maintained stability by preventing change. What humanity has done is prove that change is possible, that the old order isn't permanent. The broadcast continued with more debate, but the central question remained unanswered. What kind of galaxy would emerge from this new reality? Taeyang stood on an observation deck, looking out at the stars. Behind him, the council station continued its endless rotation. Somewhere out there, human ships maintained their vigilant watch. The dreadnoughts were still positioned near council homeworlds, still ready to strike if needed. Yuna joined him at the window. They stood in silence for a moment, watching the light of distant suns. Do you think we did the right thing? Yuna asked quietly. I think we did what was necessary, Taeyang replied. Whether it was right. History We'll have to judge that. The galaxy won't forget what we did. They'll always see us as the species that was willing to destroy a space station full of people to make a point. Good, Taeyang said, and his voice was hard. Let them remember that we value our freedom above their approval. Maybe then they'll think twice before threatening us again. Yuna nodded slowly. Admiral Jinwoo says we're already developing the next generation of weapons. Ships that will make our current fleet look primitive. We're not slowing down. We can't, Taeyang said. That's the lesson of the 60-second war. The moment we stop preparing, the moment we let our guard down, someone will try to take advantage. So we keep building. We keep improving. We make sure that anyone who thinks about threatening Earth knows they'll face overwhelming response. It sounds exhausting, Yuna observed. Always being on guard. Always preparing for the next threat. It is, Taeyang agreed. But it's also survival. And humanity has gotten very good at surviving. They continued to watch the stars in silence. Behind them, the galaxy continued to turn. Treaties were being signed. Trade routes were being established. Species were adapting to the new reality that humanity had created. And deep in hidden facilities across human space, engineers and scientists continued their work. New weapons were being designed. New defense systems were being tested. New ships were being built. The Council had wanted to control humanity's military expansion. Instead, they had taught Earth an important lesson. The only way to maintain peace was to be too dangerous to attack. It was a lesson humanity would never forget. Far away, on a Krath homeworld, Sithrak stood before a council of his own people. The once proud ambassador was now explaining how he had led his people into humiliation. But even as he spoke of defeat, he was already planning. The Krath had long memories and longer grudges. Humanity had won this round, but the game was far from over. And on Earth, Prime Minister Minji looked at reports from across human space and saw a species that had been transformed by contact with the galaxy. They had gone from isolated and alone to feared and respected. They had proven they could stand against any threat, but she also saw the cost. Humanity was now locked into an endless cycle of military advancement. They could never lower their guard. They had become what they needed to be to survive. A species that valued peace, but prepared for war. It was the price of freedom in a galaxy that respected only strength. And humanity would pay that price, whatever it took, for as long as necessary. The stars continued to shine, indifferent to the dramas of the species below them. And humanity watched those stars, ready for whatever came next.